Hi there, and welcome to the first of our new series of self-guided video learning modules on Pencil Pro. Today we've got Pencil 101. This is going to be your first introduction to the platform and a brief introduction to the skill of prompting. The way that we'll approach this is we'll have some introductions to the whole course. We'll do a walkthrough of the platform in the platform with opportunities for you to take a look at your own platform and setup as well. We'll then work through an introduction to prompting and an overview of all the image models involved. I'm going to be your trainer throughout all of these video modules. I am Tim, I'm head of training here at Pencil, and what I want to do is make sure that all of your learning in the platform is as hands-on and playful as possible. The best way to learn this tool is to have a go. With that in mind, there'll be regular points through these videos where I'm going to ask you to pause your video, navigate to Pencil, and try out the things that I've just shown you. So, what is Pencil? Pencil is a platform that aggregates AI models and other information and inputs to produce text, images, and then using the text and images generated also to produce ad creatives. The inputs, as you can see on the left-hand side, are varied. Yes, Pencil is an AI platform, and our aggregation of AI models is hugely powerful, but that's not the sole input. If we just had AI models, you'd get pretty generic results. We also bring in a huge amount of information about your brand, and as we walk through the platform in a second, I'll show you where that information is entered and how that feeds in to the performance of the tool. But that's through our brand library, our asset library, and our template library. But the other element here is that Pencil is just a tool. Pencil is called Pencil because it is a tool for creatives. And much like a pencil isn't going to produce you a fully realized image on its own, the Pencil platform isn't going to provide the best quality of ads without human skill, both through skilled prompting and through your own creative insights and intelligence. So, looking at the platform itself, feel free to follow along. If you have multiple screens, you can be watching what I'm doing and looking in your own workspace. If not, there will be an opportunity to pause and have a think about your own workspace after this walkthrough. So here we are. We're on Pencil's main landing page. When you first log in, you'll enter your workspace and you'll get to this screen. And straight away, you can see that we're able to create ads, generate text, generate images, but you're going to get the best possible outputs if you understand those inputs that we've just been through. So first of all, I'm just going to show you within the AI governance tab, the different models available to you. And different models can be activated or deactivated through this menu by administrators. We've got 7 image generation models available, and we'll go through all of those in detail later in this session. We also have 4 models available to you for copy generation. GPT-4o is the same model that the premium version of ChatGPT is built on, and we also have 3 models provided by Google here. These give you access to a huge amount of data, billions of data points, which are massively powerful in creating the best assets for your brand. What's also important to note is that within Pencil, any data that you input is ring-fenced. So you're drawing from the power of these models. You're not providing your brand data back to the models. Speaking of brand data, we have a number of different categories that we can populate with a wealth of information about your brand. First of all, we have brand knowledge. In brand knowledge, we can add description, purpose, history, insight, vision, persona, values, manifesto, moments, and difference. You can get definitions of those categories in our help center. What's important to know here is that you can add 2,500 characters of information per category. So that's a huge amount of information for our models to draw on about your brand. We can also add tone through descriptors, rules, keywords, both positive and negative, and examples of great copy in line with your brand tone of voice. Knowledge and tone both feed straight into our text generation features. So whenever you're creating strategy or copy, it is drawing on your brand. It knows your brand really well to make sure that the output is really honed and refined for your purpose. We also have visual elements in our brand library. This is for any visual elements that are applicable across your whole workspace. So we've got logos, fonts, colors, and other visual elements. These support automation in the creation of your ads. So Pencil will draw on these elements and populate them into your ads according to the parameters that you set through templates. We then also have style references, both image uploads and image descriptions. We have sounds to support creation of video creatives. We have skins that can preset combinations of color, font, logo, button style, and we have the option to upload documents. Speaking of uploading documents, yes, we can add to our brand library manually by pressing the Add New button next to any of these categories, but we can also automate this process by uploading an Office file or a PDF or using a website URL so that Pencil can extract the information and populate your brand library for you. The brand library, as I said, is for things that are across your whole workspace. If you have specific campaigns or specific products, we can still refine the outputs that we get from Pencil, and one of the ways we do that is through our asset library. Our asset library can contain images with and without background, and videos with and without voiceover. And when you are about to upload, you can see a full list of accepted specifications. We can categorize this asset library in different ways, and it is really important to have an idea of how you want to manage your asset library to make it as user-friendly as possible. One of the ways that we can manage is with products. So we can add products with product names and descriptions and assets tied to those products. The product description can also be used to add additional context to text generation. So when you generate text for a product, it will not only draw from your brand library, it will also vary its outputs based on the product description in the asset library. We can also organize by tagging. So you can see I've started to tag these images by color. Let's just do another example of that. I'll grab a couple of blue ones, bulk apply tags, and we'll tag these as blue. You might want to tag these for campaigns, for image content, for specific purposes, for aspect ratios. It is totally flexible to your needs and your conventions as a brand. The last way that we can give brand inputs to Pencil is with templates. So we'll have a whole session on templates later on in this curriculum, but for the moment what I'll show you is that within our template editor we can set the position of any element. Here we've got logo, image and text fields. These will mean that when you use them to generate ads, any images created will populate into the ad in the placement that you set in the template. Text will populate in the text fields with the same formatting. Any other elements, so on our video templates, for example, there may be animations, they will be replicated in the same exact style through any ads you create from that template. So let's just take a quick trip back to our slides, and you're going to have a chance now to just take a look at your own brand library and asset library and just see how it's set up. Depending on your role, if you're an administrator, you may have access to make changes here as required, but even if you do not have edit access within all of this, it is still worth you knowing that brand library and that asset library really well so that you can understand where your generations are coming from. So have a look at the brand library. Is it as fully populated as possible? Have a look at your asset library. Are there multiple pack shots, images and videos? And have a look at the setup and the organization of those assets, so later down the line when we're using those assets, you know how to access them. Take about 10 minutes to do that. Pause the video, and when you come back, we're going to start looking at some of the outputs of Pencil in a bit more detail. Right, assuming that you've paused and come back, we're going to have a quick look through those outputs, and I'm going to start in text generation. So when we're generating text, there'll be a whole session on this. We have a text editor that allows us to organize by files. We have a central editing panel from which we can export any results from our text chat that we want to. And we have a chat system here. We can choose our models out of any of the models available in our workspace. We can set templates, which mean that Pencil will start the conversation for you and guide you towards the information that it needs to do the best results for your brand. And we can add additional context. I mentioned before that we can add from the asset library. We can also upload files, and we can interrogate those files, summarize, use those files for analysis of other copy, all within the tool. And we'll go into full detail on that in our fourth session in this curriculum. The main thing to know here is that we're going to interact with Pencil through the chat. I'm just going to give a really simple command here of tell me what you know about my brand. Summarize to 10 bullet points. Just to show you that without me giving any information about what my brand is, Pencil will be drawing that from my brand library. And there we go. We've got a really good summary here. and you'll see that by pasting to cursor, I'm able to move over to the central panel. I'm not going to give a full walkthrough though. As I said, we've got a full session on that going into lots of detail, hands-on. We can generate images as well. I'm just going to go into one of my previous image projects here. I won't go into full detail because we're going to cover this off later in this session, but we have models and prompts as our main input here. We also have a compose feature that I will cover in our full image generation session next video. And we have a range of editing features, which again, I will cover in our next video, specifically on image generation. Any assets that we produce here, we can add to our asset library and categorize them by product. And that's the way that we will access those later on for use in our ads. Finally, we have the ability to create ads. So I'm going to look at a creative that we've produced. You can see how closely this adheres to the template that I showed you previously. And with Pencil, we can use a chat-based system to interact, specify exactly what we need from our ad, and it will then produce the right result for us in the right way. We can also edit any output, both using editing features built into the tool and AI regeneration of images and regeneration of text directly in the ad. We then also have a feature to build feed variations, and we will have a whole session dedicated to feed variations where we can iterate on this to produce hundreds, if not thousands, of variations against a single template. Now, in order to be able to do all of this, we need human skill. So the next part of this session is really focusing on the human skill of prompting. And I'm going to go through this. It will be a bit of a whistle stop, so feel free to pause the video wherever you need, so that you can follow along and really understand the process that we're going through. So there are a few things that every prompt needs, and we're going to start with a bad prompt. Generate a photo of a glass of water. This just gives us the medium, a photo, and the subject, the glass of water. What you can see is that our model, in this case Imogen, has produced a result. And don't get me wrong, a couple of years ago, this would have been a mind-blowingly good result. Now we can do so much better, but we can only do better if we understand this skill and this approach. It's not a very visually appealing image, and things like lighting is very harsh. There are some distortions in the formation of bubbles in that water that mean it doesn't quite read as fully liquid. The way that we improve our prompt and therefore improve our image is to add more elements in. So first of all, I'm going to add a description. I've taken this from a photo of a glass of water to a photo of a cut crystal highball glass of icy water. Include ice cubes and condensation on the outside to enhance the glass's coldness. And I've got a much better image. It's still not reading as truly photographic. They're particularly the ice cubes around the edge of the glass aren't quite reading true. And it's just not quite what I had in my mind's eye when I set out to create this image. Part of that is the setting. I'm not entirely sure where this glass of water is meant to be, but we can't blame the AI for doing that. when we haven't told it. So I'm going to add my setting and my framing next. Everything stayed the same, except I've now added glasses in the centre of shot sitting on marble countertop in a kitchen, a modern kitchen, rose gold faucet and sleek white sink in the background. Again, this is a massive improvement. Let's just go back and forwards. The overall realism has improved just by adding more detail. There are still issues here though, especially with the setting itself. There are things about the layout of this kitchen that just do not make sense, and things like reflection, overlapping shadow. I'm going to keep adding to this though. I'm not giving up. So next thing I'm going to do is lighting and colour. And I've just added again, bright, natural, warm lighting to evoke peace, calm and stillness, golden hour, warm peach tones as accent colours. And this has made a big difference to the visual appeal of this image. It's gone from quite a cold image to, as I've asked for, a kind of warm, calm image. There are still issues in the background. The faucet sitting in the sink doesn't ring true. But we've got one last trick up our sleeves. Adding photography settings to a prompt will apply the settings that you require. Some models are better than others at following those exact requirements. But what it really does well is improve the overall quality of the image. It is always worth, for generating a photo, to include those photography settings. Here you can see there are still one or two small imperfections in this image, which we would probably want to just edit out manually, get a skilled creative to make some tweaks and retouch in Photoshop. But the overall quality of the image, let's just go on a giddy tour back from this quite squat, harsh, unappealing glass of water through to a warm, very realistic image. It's massive. And one of the things you might notice is generating a glass of water seems like a simple thing to do, but so much went into doing that. The last thing that we're going to cover today, and please do have a go at prompting. We will do a full session on that in the next video, but please have a go in the meanwhile. Last thing we're going to do is look at the models available in Pencil. I'm not going to go through absolutely every model available, and this video was filmed in September 2024. If you're viewing this a few months down the line, there will be more models than this available. But I just want to give a sense of some of the things that Pencil can do and some of the strengths of the different models. I'm going to move myself just over here so that you can see all the models without interruption. First of all, we've got portrait photography. Feel free to pause and just read that prompt in detail. And what you'll notice here is a variety of different results. The different models process this prompt well, but in different ways. The immediate things that I would draw attention to here are DALL-E is a model that is built more around illustration. It will struggle to give you photorealism, but it's given an image with quite a nice composition. It always does. Imogen has given the absolute best realism here, by my estimation, and this is very subjective, but I personally prefer the look and feel and visuals of Stable Diffusion 3 and Firefly. Again, though, this is all so subjective. It is about understanding which models serve your brands best. I'm then going to look at nature photography. Again, feel free to pause, look at these in much more detail than we've got time for in this video. Look at the prompt as well. And again, there's a balance here. I would say, for me, the top 3 images give really good realism. The bottom 3 images give really good composition. And deciding which is actually the best image here is a really hard task, because it depends what your use case for this image will ultimately be. We've got realism from Imogen. We've got cartoonish style, but a lovely image and lovely tone from Firefly. And we've got everything else in between. For food and drinks, my main metric for success is, does it make me feel hungry? Does it make me feel thirsty? But again, I'm just hammering home that balance and that subjectivity here. One of these images might work really well for one pizza brand, another might work better for another pizza brand. A really good use case for image generation is conceptualization, and we'll look at this both in photos and in illustrations. So here, the idea is to set up a concept that could then feed into a real campaign. You might not use this image straight away in a campaign, but it's great for coming up with those ideas, playing around with them, fine-tuning them before the expense of setting up a shoot, particularly in this case, a vending machine of cocktails that would have quite a lot of associated costs around building props. And you can see very different outputs from all of these. In this case, although it's less photorealistic, DALL-E 3 comes into its own on ideation. In terms of illustration, Getty struggles. Its image dataset is Getty Images, and as such, it's much more balanced towards photography. You'll have seen in our previous example some really good realism from it. It will struggle more with illustrations. The other models are hard to separate here. Stable Diffusion has struggled a little bit with the formation of question marks, but here it really is about what's your brand preference, which visual style has ended up being the most in line with what you were intending. For surrealism, again, Getty has struggled, but the other models, it really depends how surreal you want to go. DALL-E is amazing at surrealism and will produce results that are very faithful to your prompts, no matter how absurd and wild those prompts get. The other models you can see here, Firefly and Stable Diffusion, for example, may try and rationalize weirdness, but that can actually be a real strength as well. And finally, we can use prompting for ideation, and we'll do a bit of this in our image generation session in the next video. If you don't set a specific subject and instead you set a purpose for an image, you can find out what's out there in the data set. So here I've got a really good sense that there's a pattern of images that occur in news articles about rising mortgage rates. That may tell me I want to conform to the pattern. It may tell me that I want to break that pattern. The choice is yours, but it's just that extra wealth of information that image generation can give you. So that was a really whistle-stop tour of pencil and a really whistle-stop introduction to prompting. We have been through the system overview. We've had a look at our introduction to prompting. We've had a very brief overview of the different image models available in pencil. In our next session, we will be focusing on image generation. So we'll go through our whole image generation tool. We'll have hands-on practice with prompting. We'll generate some weird and wonderful stuff, and we'll also generate some images that are really on-brand, purposeful, and useful. So please join me for that session. In the meanwhile, keep playing with pencil and check out our other video and help resources available on our website and YouTube channel.